Samuel, a renowned businessman known for both his wealth and commitment to philanthropic causes, found himself on a significant evening dressed impeccably as he headed to a charity event at one of the city's most luxurious hotels. The event aimed to raise funds for the less fortunate. The irony of fate did not escape him as he approached the venue, and his eyes caught a scene under the dim light of a lamppost at the bus stop in front of the hotel. There stood a young woman in weather-worn clothes, cradling a baby wrapped in a thin blanket. Their tired eyes met Samuel's briefly, speaking volumes about their daily struggle for survival on the cold city streets. It served as a poignant reminder of a reality far removed from the luxury and warmth of the event he was about to attend. With a heavy sigh, Samuel continued into the hotel, the weight of the outside scene lingering in his mind. He knew he had a speech to deliver, a role to play that evening that could indeed make a difference in many lives. Yet, the image of the woman and her baby remained etched in his mind, a stark reminder of the real purpose behind the event. "Ladies and gentlemen," Samuel began, his voice echoing through the elegantly decorated hall with tables adorned in silk cloths. "We are gathered here not only to celebrate our achievements, but more importantly, to remember those out in the harsh reality of our streets fighting for a better tomorrow." Samuel went on to recount the scene he had witnessed moments before entering the event. He didn't use the example to sadden his listeners, but to inspire them, to highlight the urgency and necessity of their contributions. "Imagine," he said, "a life where your greatest challenge is not deciding what to wear to an event, but rather ensuring your child has something to eat the next day." As Samuel's speech unfolded, a wave of emotions swept through the hall. He spoke with a passion that transcended the hotel walls, touching the hearts of all present. His words were not just a call to action, they were a reminder of the shared responsibility to care for one another, to reach out to those in need. When Samuel concluded his speech, the hall erupted in applause. He had not only fulfilled his role as the evening's speaker, but had also reaffirmed the true meaning of that gathering. Though the woman and her baby at the bus stop were not there to hear his words, Samuel knew the true measure of success that night would be seen in the actions that followed, in the lives that would be touched and transformed thanks to the generosity of those who had the power to make a difference. Samuel, dressed in his finest attire, moved through the illuminated hall of the charity event. He had just delivered a passionate speech about the need to support marginalized communities, a theme that resonated deeply with the audience. As people from various walks of life approached to greet him, a woman with a serene presence, Clara, a middle-aged doctor with a kind gaze and warm smile, caught Samuel's attention. Approaching him, she praised, "Your speech was incredible, Samuel. You speak with such fervor about the need to reach out to the less fortunate. It's rare to see someone in your position genuinely committed to the cause." Flattered, Samuel thanked her. "Thank you, Clara. I believe we have a great responsibility to those in need. Each of us has the power to make a difference in some way." Clara nodded thoughtfully, her gaze becoming reflective. "It's true. Helping others has become a way for me to heal my own wounds. I lost my daughter and husband in a tragic accident a few years ago. Since then, dedicating myself to doing good has been my refuge, my way of keeping their memory alive." The sincerity in her voice deeply moved Samuel. He realized that behind her achievements and recognition lay a common understanding of life's fragility. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Clara. I can't imagine what you've been through, but it's admirable to see how you've turned your pain into something so positive. That alone is a great inspiration," Samuel said, his admiration for Clara growing with each word. "Our lives challenge us in ways we never expect," Clara continued. "But it's in responding to these challenges that we find our true purpose. Family, whether bound by blood or chosen ties, is where we find our strength and refuge." As the night progressed, they discussed ways to expand the impact of their charitable actions, each bringing their unique perspective. As the night drew to a close, Samuel reflected on the woman and baby he had seen earlier. His conversation with Clara reinforced his determination not just to talk about change, but to take concrete action. He knew the journey ahead would be challenging, but he was more determined than ever to make a difference, not just in words, but in deeds. That encounter with Clara was not just a courteous exchange. It was a powerful reminder that even in the most painful circumstances, we can find meaning and purpose in helping others. For Samuel, it marked a new mission in life. In the elegantly lit evening, filled with promises of charity, Samuel, with the gravity of his thoughts deepened by the unexpected encounter at the bus stop, took the stage once more. The audience, still echoing applause from his first speech, awaited more inspiring words. Clearing his throat, adjusting the microphone, Samuel began with a firm voice, but laden with emotion. "Ladies and gentlemen," Samuel began tonight, "we've shared stories of triumphs and tragedies, of loss and hope. I want to speak to you about a very special person, a man who faced adversity with grace, never failing to teach us the importance of reaching out to others." The audience quieted, hanging on his words as Samuel continued to share anecdotes about his father, the lessons taught, emphasizing that a man's true measure lies not in his own achievements, but in the impact he has on others' lives. "Today, more than ever, I feel the depth of these words," he concluded emotionally, appealing for generosity and compassion. Samuel left the stage amid a new wave of applause. As he walked away, his thoughts spun not only around the words he had spoken, but also those he had heard from Clara earlier. Finding her again, the atmosphere seemed calmer, more intimate. "Clara," he said, approaching with gratitude, "your words about family and helping others resonated deeply with me. Thank you for sharing your story." Clara, with kindness tinged with sadness in her eyes, nodded. Life teaches us in ways we don't always understand at the moment, but what's important is keeping our hearts open and extending our hands whenever possible. Their conversation about life, loss, and the importance of making a difference continued for a few more minutes. Samuel felt an unexpected connection, a kind of understanding born from sharing vulnerabilities. As they parted ways, Clara offered a warm smile. "I hope we can continue doing good, Samuel, each in our own way." "Certainly, Clara, and thank you again," Samuel replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and reflection. As he walked away, Samuel carried not just the memories of an evening of eloquence and meaningful encounters, but also a renewed determination to live by the values reinforced by his father and Clara, each in their own way. A profound understanding of the immeasurable importance of helping others and cherishing the bonds of family and community. After a day filled with speeches and significant encounters, Samuel left the charity event with his mind full of thoughts and emotions. The night had fallen, and a light rain had begun to intensify into a downpour, soaking everything in its path. As he approached his car, his eyes caught a scene that had earlier etched itself into his mind. Natalia, the woman with a baby he had seen at the bus stop, was still there, unsuccessfully seeking shelter from the rain under a narrow awning. The stark contrast between the warmth filled with promises of helping others and the cold, damp reality outside couldn't have been more striking. Samuel, dressed in his expensive suit and feeling the weight of responsibility, knew he couldn't simply get into his car and leave. He approached the woman cautiously, not wanting to startle her. "Good evening. I'm sorry to bother you," he began gently, his voice trying to cut through the sound of the rain. "My name is Samuel. I couldn't help but notice that you and your baby seem to need a place to shelter from this rain." Natalia, surprised and initially wary, looked up. Her face showed concern, but there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "Yes, "We're trying to get to the shelter, but the rain started so fast," she replied, holding her baby closer. Feeling a wave of compassion, Samuel made a quick decision. "I'm on my way to another meeting now, but I would like to offer my home for you to shelter from the rain. It's the least I can do." Natalia was speechless for a moment, taken aback by the unexpected generosity. "Would you really do that for us?" she asked, clearly moved. "Yes, of course. Don't worry about a thing. My driver will take you there safely, and you can be comfortable until the rain passes," Samuel explained, handing Natalia the keys to his house. "I'll arrive later, but please make yourselves at home." With a brief nod to the driver, who had already been briefed on the destination, Samuel bid farewell to Natalia and the baby. "Take care, and if you need anything, my driver will be at your service." As Natalia and the baby were assisted into the back seat of Samuel's luxurious car, Samuel felt a mix of emotions. There was a slight discomfort in opening his home to strangers, but the feeling of doing the right thing was overwhelmingly stronger. He knew that somehow his father Edivaldo and Clara's words about the importance of helping others and valuing family had influenced his decision. With this thought warming his heart despite the cold rain, Samuel got into his car and headed to his next meeting, hopeful that his small action could make a big difference in Natalia and her baby's life. Natalia, holding her daughter tightly in her arms, sat in the back seat of Samuel's luxurious car, still trying to process the unexpected turn of events. The driver, a middle-aged man with a kind expression, adjusted the rearview mirror and smiled warmly at her through the reflection before starting the journey. "Ma'am, I know this may all seem a bit strange, but Senor Samuel is a very good person," he began, his calm voice cutting through the uncomfortable silence that had settled. "He's always involved in charitable work and does what he can to help others. You and your daughter are in good hands." Natalia, still somewhat tense and suspicious of the unusual situation, looked at the driver through the rearview mirror. "Have you worked with him for long?" she asked, curious about the man who had unhesitatingly offered his home for her and her daughter to shelter. "Oh yes, it's been several years. I've seen Senor Samuel do many good deeds. He truly cares about people," the driver replied, the city lights passing by the car windows creating a calming effect. "It's not every day you see someone with his wealth willing to do so much for others." The conversation with the driver began to calm Natalia's nerves, making her feel a bit more at ease with the situation. She looked down at her daughter, who was already asleep in her arms, oblivious to her mother's concerns. After a peaceful journey, the car finally arrived at Samuel's home, a large, imposing residence with a welcoming atmosphere. The driver parked at the entrance. He quickly stepped out to open the door for Natalia. "We've arrived, Ma'am. Let me help you with the keys," he said, handing over the house keys to Natalia. "Senor Samuel instructed that you use the house as if it were your own. Anything you need, I'm here to assist." Natalia, holding the keys in one hand and her daughter in the other, felt grateful for Samuel's generosity and concern. "Thank you," she murmured, still incredulous at the kindness of a stranger. "You're welcome, Ma'am. Mr. Samuel will be back later." "Feel free to rest and dry off," the driver said with a reassuring smile. "I'll make sure the door is properly locked. Have a good night." Once the driver departed, Natalia entered the house, still trying to process the unexpected kindness. She looked around, amazed at the warm and inviting atmosphere now surrounding her. Despite the unusual situation and the strangeness of being in a stranger's home, she felt a wave of relief and security, knowing that at least for that night, she and her daughter had shelter from the storm. After an exhausting meeting, Samuel checked his phone for updates. Amidst several notifications, a message from his father Edivaldo stood out. "Heading to your house now. We need to talk." Confused, as he wasn't expecting his father's visit, especially given his delicate health, Samuel felt a sudden urgency. He quickly bid farewell to his colleagues and hurried home, concerned about his father's well-being. As he approached his residence, his heart raced upon seeing an ambulance parked out front. Fear gripped him, fearing the worst. "My father!" he exclaimed, jumping out of the car and rushing toward the ambulance. The scene reminded him of Natalia and her daughter, whom he had left in his house. A series of alarming thoughts crossed his mind, fearing something bad had happened because of his decision. However, upon entering the house, he was greeted by an unexpected sight. Natalia was there, visibly shaken but safe, beside a paramedic who promptly approached Samuel to explain the situation. "Sir, your father had a sudden episode right after he arrived. He was already here when we were called by your neighbor," explained the paramedic calmly. "It was a heart attack. We arrived in time to provide initial care, and now we're taking him to the hospital. He's stable, but needs immediate medical attention." Samuel felt relieved knowing his father was receiving the necessary help, but he was still shaken. He turned to Natalia, seeking to understand the situation better. Sensing his concern, Natalia quickly explained, "When we arrived, your father was already on the floor. I knew what to do, so I shouted for help. The neighbor heard and called the ambulance. I just tried to keep him awake until they arrived." Samuel realized the seriousness, initial understanding, and the gravity of the actual situation made Samuel feel a mix of gratitude and remorse. "Thank you for being here," he sincerely told Natalia. "And I'm sorry for doubting you. You helped my father." He approached his father, who was being prepared for transfer to the ambulance, and briefly held his hand, promising to meet him at the hospital shortly. Then, turning to Natalia, he offered a deeper gratitude for her accidental presence, which had indeed been crucial in that moment. "Please stay. Here as long as you need, and thank you again," Samuel said before following the ambulance to the hospital, reflecting on the unexpected chain of events that turned a gesture of kindness into a life-saving action. In the hospital waiting room, tension hung heavily in the air as Samuel anxiously awaited news about his father, Edivaldo. The sterile environment and muffled sounds of footsteps and conversation only hygiene his unease. It was then that a paramedic approached, exuding calm and authority. "Senor Samuel, I have good news," the paramedic began, immediately capturing Samuel's full attention. "Your father has been saved thanks to the quick action and first aid provided by Natalia. It was an onset of a heart attack, and we managed to reverse the situation in time." Samuel, relieved and astonished, could barely believe what he was hearing. "Natalia, she saved my father?" he stammered. "Yes, absolutely," confirmed the paramedic. "Her ability to recognize the symptoms and act swiftly was crucial. Your father is recovering now, and indications are for a good recovery." The relief and gratitude Samuel felt at that moment were indescribable. He turned to Natalia, who sat quietly in a corner of the waiting room, watching the scene unfold. I don't know how to thank you," he said, approaching her. "You saved my father's life." Natalia, slightly uncomfortable with the attention, simply smiled modestly. "I did what anyone would have done. I'm just glad I could help." Together, Samuel and Natalia went to the room where Edivaldo was being cared for. Upon entering, they found him awake, with a grateful expression. "Natalia, I have no words to express my gratitude," Edivaldo said, holding her hand. "You've done more for me and my family than you can imagine." It was in this emotional moment of sharing that Natalia began to tell her story. She spoke of her life marked by poverty, the recent loss of her job, and how her daughter's father disappeared upon learning of the pregnancy. Without money for rent, she and her daughter ended up on the streets. "Life has been tough on us," Natalia concluded, her voice filled with a mix of resignation and hope. "But we have to keep going." Edivaldo and Samuel listened intently to every word Natalia spoke, deeply resonating with her story. It was a poignant reminder of how unpredictable and challenging life can be. "You are an incredibly strong woman, Natalia," Edivaldo said with admiration, "and I owe you my life. I promise we'll do whatever we can to help you get out of this situation." Samuel nodded deeply, moved by. In that moment of strength and resilience from Natalia, Samuel knew that helping Natalia and her daughter rebuild their lives would be a priority for him and his family. Natalia's unexpected generosity had saved his father's life, and now it was Samuel's turn to repay that kindness, starting a new chapter of mutual hope and support. Days after the incident that nearly cost Edivaldo his life, Samuel found himself reflecting on how best to help Natalia and express his gratitude. The idea came during a conversation with his recovering father, who was more than willing to commend Natalia for her courage and compassionate heart. "You know, son," began Edivaldo, "Natalia has shown herself to be a person of great heart and courage. She deserves a chance to change her situation." Samuel agreed, already formulating a plan. The next day, he invited Natalia to a meeting where he presented her with a proposition. "Natalia, after everything that has happened and seeing how grateful my father and I are for your help, we would like to offer you a job. It would involve caring for my father during his recovery, and of course, you will be well compensated for it." Natalia, taken aback by the offer, took a moment to process the words. "Samuel, this would mean so much to me and my daughter. I accept and am deeply grateful for this opportunity," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. From that moment on, Natalia's life took a new direction. Every day, she went to Samuel's house to care for Edivaldo, proving herself not only as a capable caregiver, but also as a comforting presence. Over time, a strong friendship blossomed between Samuel and Natalia, built on mutual respect and shared gratitude. Edivaldo, in turn, praised Natalia endlessly, always expressing his support for the growing bond between his son and her. "Samuel, you made a great choice. Natalia is a remarkable woman," he would say frequently, underscoring how much he appreciated her presence and care. Samuel and Natalia met daily not only because of Natalia's job, but also because they enjoyed each other's company. Conversations about life, dreams, challenges, and hopes became common between them, further strengthening their connection. "You know, Natalia," Samuel said one day, "I never imagined that such a scary situation as my father's illness would lead us to form such a strong friendship." Natalia smiled. "Life is full of surprise. Samuel, I'm so grateful for everything that happened despite the circumstances. Your family has given me hope again." Watching their interaction, Edivaldo felt happy, not just for his own recovery, but also for seeing his son form such a meaningful connection with someone who had proven to be a person of immense value. Their friendship, forged through shared experiences of vulnerability and generosity, became a powerful reminder that even in the most challenging times, beautiful human relationships can emerge. As days turned into weeks, the relationship between Natalia and Samuel flourished in ways neither of them could have predicted. They met daily under the pretext of Edivaldo's health and Natalia's work, but with each encounter their bond deepened. It was a strong friendship marked by long conversations, shared laughter, and moments of mutual comfort. Yet beneath the surface of this friendship, a silent passion began to burn in both Samuel and Natalia's hearts. Samuel often found himself captivated by Natalia's smile and the strength she displayed in every action, despite the adversities in her life. Natalia, in turn, saw in Samuel a kindness and sincerity that touched her deeply. Deeply, however, they both kept their feelings carefully hidden, afraid of complicating the special relationship they had built. It was Edivaldo who, observing the dynamics between the two, decided to take action. Recognizing the loneliness in his own home and the potential for a larger, more united family, he made a generous proposal to Natalia. "Natalia, my dear, I see how well you and Samuel get along, and I cannot ignore how much of a blessing you have been in our lives," began Edivaldo on a quiet afternoon in the living room. This house is too big for an old man like me and a busy young man like Samuel. We would like you and your daughter to consider making it your home too. I'll increase your salary, of course, but more than that, I want you to feel part of the family." Natalia, surprised and moved by the proposal, felt a whirlwind of emotions. The idea of having a stable home for her daughter, of being part of a family that had shown her so much kindness, was more than she could have dreamed of. I don't know what to say, Edivaldo. This is an incredibly generous offer. I need to think about it, but thank you, she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. When Samuel learned of his father's proposal, his first reaction was full support. "I think it's a great idea, Dad. Natalia, you and your daughter deserve all the stability and happiness we can offer," said Samuel, looking directly into Natalia's eyes, conveying not only his support, but also a glimpse of the feelings he had kept hidden. After careful consideration, Natalia accepted the offer. The decision to live under the same roof marked the beginning of a new chapter for all of them. It was during this transition, as the line between professional and personal life became increasingly blurred, that Samuel and Natalia finally confronted their feelings for each other. On a quiet evening after putting Natalia's daughter to bed, Samuel was waiting for her in the living room. The silence between them was thick with tension and expectation. "Natalia, I need to tell you, I feel something for you, more than just friendship," confessed Samuel, his voice steady but filled with nervousness. Natalia, her eyes shining with emotion and relief, took a step towards him. I was afraid of ruining everything, but I feel the same," she admitted. In that moment, with the moon shining outside and the comfortable silence of the house surrounding them, Samuel and Natalia shared their first kiss. It was a seal of love and a promise for the future, marking the beginning of a new life together, built upon the foundations of friendship, mutual respect, and a passion that had quietly grown between them. On a starlit evening, Samuel meticulously prepared his home, eagerly anticipating the dinner he had planned with Clara, the dedicated humanitarian doctor whom he admired deeply. The purpose of their meeting was to discuss future charitable actions, a subject close to both of their hearts. Clara arrived, bringing with her an aura of compassion and determination that Samuel admired. During Clara's introduction to Natalia, something unexpected happened. Clara noticed a distinctive mark on Natalia's arm, a crescent-shaped scar that was identical to the one her daughter had, lost years ago in a tragic accident. This specific detail triggered an avalanche of emotions in Clara, visibly shaken. I can't believe it." "That mark," she began, struggling to maintain composure. "It's identical to my daughter's after the accident that took her and my husband from me. My daughter's body was never found. Seeing that scar is like reliving it all over again." Samuel and Natalia, both surprised and deeply moved by Clara's intense pain, offered their support. Natalia, her eyes shining with profound empathy, held Clara's hands. "Gently. I can't imagine what you've been through. This mark, I've always had it but never knew its origin." The conversation that followed was filled with emotion and empathy, with Clara sharing more about the loss that had marked her life. Feeling the depth of connection forming between the two women, Samuel suggested a careful approach. "Clara, perhaps there's a way we can explore this coincidence," he suggested gently. "We may not know for sure how our stories connect without a DNA test, but we can start by looking into records or stories that might shed light on this incredible similarity." Clara looked at Samuel and Natalia, gratitude and renewed hope shining in her eyes. "This would mean the world to me," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "Even if we don't uncover how our stories intertwine, your kindness has already brought some light into the darkness I've felt." Natalia, deeply touched by Clara's story and the bond forming between them, agreed to help in whatever way possible. "We're in this together. Your story touched me, and I want to help us both find peace," she assured. The dinner, initially planned to discuss charitable projects, turned into a meeting of open hearts and shared stories. Though the journey ahead was uncertain, Clara, Samuel, and Natalia's willingness to face it together spoke volumes about the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of finding connections even in the most unlikely circumstances. After Clara revealed the loss of her daughter and the existence of a similar scar, Natalia felt compelled to share her own story, one she rarely discussed. "I always knew the parents who raised me weren't my biological parents," Natalia began, her voice steady yet laden with emotion. "They were homeless, living on the fringes of society, but with hearts full of love and hope." Samuel and Clara listened attentively, hanging on every word. "One day, while scavenging for food near a creek, they found me. I was just a baby, abandoned with superficial wounds, seemingly left there alone to fend for myself," Natalia recounted. Her story was poignant, depicting a harsh reality, but also the unexpected kindness that can arise in the most desolate places. They never tried to have a child, knowing the challenges it would bring to their already difficult lives. But when they saw me, something changed within them. They saw in me a chance to fulfill a dream they never dared to have, and so they decided to raise me as their own daughter. Clara, still moved and now touched by Natalia's story, wiped tears from her eyes. "What an incredible story," she said, her voice trembling. "Their kindness, their strength, it's inspiring." Equally moved, Samuel nodded. "Natalia, your story is a testament to the human capacity to love and care, regardless of circumstances. It's truly inspiring." Evening unfolded beyond the dinner, with Clara sharing more about her lost daughter and Natalia listening attentively. Both found comfort in each other's company. Despite the different circumstances of their stories, there was a mutual understanding and a connection that transcended their individual experiences. That night, Samuel, Clara, and Natalia not only discussed actions, shared unexpected parts of their lives that brought them together. Natalia's revelation about her origins and Clara's story found common ground in their shared desire to make a difference in their own lives and in the lives of others. The meeting ended with hugs and promises of mutual support, each reflecting on the journey that had brought them to that moment. Although the unresolved connection between Natalia and Clara lingered, the night had planted the seeds of a lasting friendship based on understanding, compassion, and a shared commitment to helping those in need. After a night full of revelations and sharing deeply personal stories, Natalia and Clara, moved by a mix of hope and anxiety, decided to undergo a DNA test. The possibility of such a significant connection between them, suggested by the coincidence of the crescent-shaped scar, had become a bond that neither doubt nor fear could ignore. The days leading up to the result were filled with anticipation, with Samuel and Edivaldo closely observing and offering their unwavering support to Natalia, regardless of the outcome. They had become a family, and nothing would change that. Finally, the day of revelation arrived. Clara and Natalia, accompanied by Samuel, sat together in a small office, holding each other's hands in a gesture of mutual support. When the envelope was opened and the words confirmed what Clara's heart already knew, emotions overflowed. You are my mother," Natalia said, her voice trembling with the magnitude of that moment. Tears of joy and relief streamed down Clara's face as she embraced Natalia with all the strength she had. "My daughter, my dear daughter. I always knew in my heart that you were alive, that you would come back to me." Samuel and Edivaldo, witnesses to this emotional reunion, couldn't help but be overcome by the moment's intensity, grateful to be part of this story of love and reunion. In the days that followed, Natalia and Clara began to rediscover each other, sharing stories, dreams, and above all, making up for lost time. It was a natural decision for Natalia to move into Clara's house, eager to build new memories with her biological mother. However, the bond formed with Samuel and Edivaldo was too strong to leave behind. "I may be living with my mom now, but that doesn't change what you mean to me," Natalia explained to Samuel and Edivaldo, her words filled with affection and gratitude. "You're family to me too, and I'll visit every day." Samuel smiled, embracing Natalia. "You'll always be part of our family, Natalia. We're just happy you found your mom and have a second chance." And so, Natalia began dividing her time between her new life with Clara and daily visits to Samuel and Edivaldo's home, maintaining the connection that had formed between them. The love and friendship that had blossomed in such unexpected circumstances continued to flourish, a constant reminder of life's surprises and the power of love to unite and heal. Following the emotional reunion between Natalia and Clara, life took a path full of new opportunities and joys. One of the most significant changes was Natalia's decision to pursue a dream she had never thought possible, becoming a doctor, inspired by the mother who was now in her life to help others. Natalia enrolled in medical school. "I've always wanted to do more, to help people in a meaningful way," Natalia shared with Clara one quiet evening after enrolling. "Seeing what you do, the difference you make in people's lives, I want to be part of that." Clara, with tears of pride in her eyes, hugged her daughter. "I couldn't be prouder of you, Natalia. You have a huge heart and the determination to make a difference. Being a doctor is a challenging journey, but I know you'll touch many lives." Natalia's academic journey was marked by challenges and achievements, with Clara by her side, offering support and guidance. Living together further strengthened their relationship, sharing both the joys and hardships of this new chapter. The intertwined story of Natalia and Clara with Samuel and Edivaldo found a moment of celebration when the two women visited the house where so many changes had begun. Samuel and Edivaldo welcomed them with their usual warmth and joy, eager to spend time with people they considered family. During the visit, Natalia and Samuel exchanged looks full of emotion and a secret smile before announcing their news. "We have a big announcement," Samuel began, his voice filled with happiness. Everyone in the room turned their attention to the couple, anticipating the news. Holding Samuel's hand, Natalia said with a sparkle in her eyes, "I'm going to have a baby. We're having a baby." The news was met with an explosion of happiness and congratulations. Clara, moved to tears, hugged Natalia and Samuel, expressing her joy and pride. "This is wonderful. I'm going to be a grandmother," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Edivaldo, equally moved, embraced them all, celebrating the news of the expanding family. "Our family keeps growing," he said, "and I couldn't be happier about it." The story of Natalia, Clara, Samuel, and Edivaldo is a journey of love, reunions, and new beginnings. The news of Natalia and Samuel's baby symbolized not only the continuation of this journey, but also the promise of love, hope, and happiness for their future together. They proved that families are built not only by blood ties, but by bonds of love and mutual care to face whatever the future holds for them.